The program is Bull's Eye on Splash 105.5 FM, the Integrity Station. I am Edmund Obilo. Good morning and welcome. My guest on the program this morning is the author of the book, Ibadan, Foundation, Growth and Change, 1830 to 1960. My guest is a historian and a professor of African Studies. Professor Toyin Falola, it's good to have you on Bull's Eye.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bello. It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
How do you feel when you are described in such beautiful words, Africa's most prominent historian?
Thank you. When you are being flattered, you have two choices. You keep your mouth shut and you let the person keep talking. Because you can't say in humility that you accept it. And out of grace, you can deny it.
But don't you think you should accept it?
Well, okay, it's accepted, but the greater people will come after me.
How do you do it? You have written so many books. How do you find the time?
Well, 146 books to date. A lot of passion, a lot of interest, a lot of commitment, and a lot of uplifting all of us, you and I, the black race, and the continent. That's where the energy comes from.
Falola has been celebrated both in Africa and around the world. What is that beauty of scholarship, and how did you discover it?
Well, we have to thank younger people. The Redeemers University just concluded a conference named after me, the Toyin Falola Annual Conference on Africa. And they were able to attract over 300 people. So we have to celebrate those who do that and celebrate the reasons why they do that. But bear in mind that a country like Nigeria is permanently searching for heroes just because there's an intellectual decadence and a leadership decadence. And when they see a difference, they tend to celebrate it. That's the only way I can explain it.
You know, some would not believe that you are even a product of a Nigerian university.
Ife.
Yes, Ife.
Yeah, it was a great university when I was there.
Is it still a great university?
I would think so. They have their challenges, but I would think so.
I thought you would have been frustrated when you dumped the documents of a chair of your department of history in the bin. I thought the anger from the chair of the department at that time would have frustrated your scholarship.
I don't think we should look at things that way. There's a Yoruba proverb: if you don't have problems in Ibadan, you cannot be successful in Lagos. So they're right, I'm right, and we all see that as a product of small issues, and we move ahead.
But small issues tend to be the big issues in this part of the world.
Very good, as in Gowan and Mojuku in Ghana. They are here. The conference are misreading interpretations. But at some point, we get older, we get mature, we realize the mistakes we've made, you and I, and we move forward.
You spent barely 10 years in Ife and you decided to travel abroad. What chased you out of the country?
Well, it's far more complicated. What chased all of us out were decisions done in Washington, D.C. The World Bank, the IMF, the Structural Adjustment Program that created all sorts of conditionalities. I wasn't the only one who left at the time. Chebe left, I left. Shenka left for a while. BJ. Many of us actually left in the 90s. and the 80s and 90s. It was a big movement of vacation.
Are we going to recover from that massive movement?
In many ways, actually, because it was after we left that the creation of private universities began all over Africa. A revolutionary moment. More younger people. I'm actually proud of these younger people to tell you. In music, in creativity, in design, and so many things.
So we have more Falolas on the way.
Oh, and better ones actually. Especially in the creativity world. These are extremely talented young people. We see them in music, we see them in Nollywood, we see them in fashion. But they also produce good scholarship, only that those scholarships are not well known. And part of what I'm doing now is to bring this scholarship alive.
You are not 70 yet. You were born in 1953.
6-7 more years, I'll be there.
And when you told the story in your memoir, A Mouth Sweeter Than Salt, you reminded me of the danger in asking for the age of your father. Mm-hmm. I wonder why you had to tell that story.
Well, I told the story in terms of saying that there are different epistemologies. That for a long time we've accepted Western epistemology. That we have a different way of looking at ontologies, metaphysics. Forgive my jargons. That we have a different way of knowing, a different way of thinking. That we do not necessarily use Western ways of counting, Western ways of memory. If you look at this story very well, the book is voted as one of the best childhood memoirs ever written. It's a moonlight story. It adopted the approach of a moonlight story. That somebody is sitting, that somebody is talking to you. That book is written in a non-Western way of telling a story.
You made me laugh continually as I read the book.
That is the idea. That's what moonlight stories do. That if you don't do that, the person listening to it after coming from the farm, children who have been playing outside all day, they're already tired. So as you are telling the story, if you don't give them energy, they're going to fall asleep.
But I felt for you. You were beaten to pulp.
Yeah.
What happened to Yusuf?
Well, and these are boys that once in a while we still meet. But these are childhood stories and plays that we all encounter in moments and moments. One of the stories in the book, Philip, incidentally, the first Vice Chancellor of Babcock was part of that story. And the second Vice Chancellor of McKinley, Philip, in that story was his best man. So we've become adults and we've all moved beyond the story. But these were childhood stories that people do and play all the time.
The use of proverbs in the story is remarkable. The water need not be clean to extinguish a fire. Falola said, when a man thinks he knows everything, his mother might be the only woman he can marry. Is that really true?
It's true. Far more than true. In which Proverbs enable us to talk less and to cut long stories short.
But what has Proverbs got to do with history?
They're very much connected because they are part of the metaphysics. They are part of how we explain the world. One in which you can say, do not act in haste because you can get into danger. A frog will know that there are two worlds. if it jumps into hot water. It has to do with our way of thinking.
Did you do well to abandon your country? And today, we still talk about brain drain.
In my own case, it's about brain circulation and brain transference.
But you drained the country of the vitality of a historian that has the potential to change the world.
Yeah, but the transfer has been enormous. Should we give credit to the United States for what Falola has become? I won't put it that way. I would say the credit has to go to a new conception of transnationalism, which makes things possible to circulate commodities, ideas, technologies with a great deal of rapidity. So I can only talk for myself that it has been a great advantage, but there are people who are selfish, who do not pay back. Once you pay back, your country benefits from you. Have you really paid back? Far more than enough. Should I say well done? Well, you're free to say that. You said something here. Additional, I shall call you 3 times more. If you do not answer, you will be like the white bird who lives along the road. Let the farewell be long, as we meet only in dreams. An encounter between man and the white bird. What is it with Falola and bird? Well, it's a poetry in which you praise the dead, but you also threaten them. Did you threaten your father here? That is a poem of threat. Why did you have to threaten the dead? That if you forget me, I will forget you. If you forgive me, I will forgive you. If you want to see me, I will see you. But again, you made us know here, let the farewell belong. Why do you want it to belong? And if you do not become an ancestor, if you don't come out in August and become a masquerade, you have to become a masquerade. You have to say, well, I'm dead, but I'm coming back when we've harvested the corn. This is the season of corn. And after the season of corn, the masquerades have to come out. And you must be part of the masquerade saying, look, I want to see my son again. And if you don't want to see me, then the farewell has to be long. If you want the farewell to be short, every year you come back as a masquerade, as a spirit. You come back in my dreams. Do I know who Professor Falola really is? Are you a traditionalist? You can say that, and I'm also a cosmopolitan. How do you combine both? Locality and internationalism are combinable. I can eat my amala with bagiri, which I do at Amala Jet, Yaupe at the store, in Alende Illustrate. And when I get to London, I can use my fork and knife to eat the steak and drink my red wine. And when I'm at Ife, I drink my palm wine. When I can wear agbada every day, and if it's cold, I can wear my suit. You are a world citizen. That is correct. Do you believe in God? Yes, and some other spiritual forces. I thought when you become too brilliant, when you become intellectually endowed, you tend to doubt some of the stories about supernatural beings being called gods. Yesterday evening, I saw some nomis. One of them had 17 eyes and 5 noses and 6 ears. Where did you see that? In my imagination. Imagination? Yes. How do you mean? That you can see them, you can dream of them. Okay, but now, goddess with 16 breasts. There are mythologies that are there. You cannot, Shoenka would not have had the Nobel without Ogun and the deities. So some of these things are actually complementary, they are not contradictory. Are they real? They are real, as Nollywood has told you, as belief systems. The fact that if somebody were to say that he's going to make money magic. That's a belief. The question is not whether it's real or not real. The question is whether there's a belief that underpins it. Suppose you ask me, does it work? I don't know.
Does it work?
I don't know, but there's a belief. So Jesus Christ died on the cross. He was nailed to the cross, and then they thought he resurrected. Did he not resurrect? He did, because his faith is a belief system. So belief is different from, we do not pose philosophical questions in terms of the finality of whether they are real or not, because they are beliefs. And as beliefs, you accept them, you're a believer, you don't accept them, then you go to another faith.
So what do you believe in?
That there are forces greater than you and I.
Does it have to do with the forces of Christ or Muhammad? Or you were talking about Songo, Ogun, Ifa? Where do you belong?
Or the forces of the Orisha.
So where do you belong?
Or the combination of metaphysics.
You like all of them?
Or the combination of all the traditions.
Does intellectualism take one out of these words?
Or does it aggregate them and accumulate them into secularism?
The program is Bullseye on Splash 105.5 FM, the Integrity Station. I am discussing with the one that has been described as Africa's most prominent historian. He's Professor Toyin Falola. We'll be back after this break, so don't go away. Welcome back. The program is Bullseye on Splash 105.5 FM, the Integrity Station. I am discussing with Professor Falola, a professor of African Studies. You are a Pan-Africanist.
Correct.
Who is a Pan-Africanist?
Well, that you want Africa to be one country.
But you are Yoruba man.
Yes. But you want to move beyond that and say that somebody can wake up in the morning from Enugu and go and look for a job in Gambia. Or somebody can wake up from Onitsha and go to Central Africa. That these boundaries, we didn't create it. They were created for us. And that we should not see those boundaries as if we agreed with this creation.
But you know that will not work.
It will work.
The European Union is about crushing.
Well, that is their problem. Our problems are different.
Our problems are acute, poverty, disease.
Yes, but those boundaries, those ethnicities will not solve those problems for us.
But poverty causes boundaries.
Correct. But we will do better if we work within a bigger framework that move beyond these ethnic problems. I don't relate to people because they are Kanuri or Hausa. I relate to them because they are good citizens.
But you are first a Yoruba man.
Yes, but I was not the one who told my mother to born me here. And I'm proud of that, but that does not mean I do not live bigger than that.
But for we to get that kind of Africa you dream of, there must be African dignity.
It will come, and there are predecessors before me who have advocated those principles. But we all have to dream and hope that just as the Europeans divided us into over 50 countries, we will recreate ourselves. Even take Nigeria. I don't believe in the number of all these states. I think there are too many. And I think we should begin to think of collapsing them. Human beings want the same thing in the world. Human beings want the same thing. The fundamental premise of human beings is they want to live well and they want to live long. That is the summary of the lives of every human being. And then you have people who say, I want to have more than you, and I want to live longer than you, and I will take more resources than you. And then that generates conflict. But you will never come across any human being who does not want to live well and who does not want to live long. And those two fundamental questions can be addressed. They can be addressed without wars. They can be addressed without conflicts.
But Africa has not shown the capacity to operate with your recommendation. Even the likes of Nkrumah,
yes,
who were intellectually grounded, could not even achieve it. Now, many have said, we have intellectually hobbled leadership in most countries of Africa.
Well, that does not mean we're going to lose hope. Bear in mind that this project of modernity is new, and we're still grappling with it. And as we fail and fail and fail, there'll be new rethinking processes. And people will know that it's in their best interest to begin to see those things that divide as problematic.
You just talked about modernity.
Yes.
Let me take you to your book entitled A Mouth Sweeter Than Salt. You said on page 62, Ibadan first modernized itself before settling for traditions. During the 20th century, the plea to Africans, if they wanted to enjoy life and alienation as Westerners, was to abandon tradition and rush to modernity. You then said, Ibadan did not even want a king with a crown, like other Yoruba cities and kingdoms, with the powerful half-man, half-god idling away at the palace with his harem. The British encouraged Ibadan to replace a warrior with a gentle king.
Correct.
What were you trying to state here?
At the very heart of his creation was an attempt to be revolutionary, to rethink the entire process of modernity, of Yoruba institutions. His founding fathers, in terms of the 1820s history, were actually questioning the very processes of tradition. And they were coming up with revolutionary answers of revolution. Let us give merit to people. Let us welcome everybody from different parts of wherever they come from. Let us give them the opportunities to survive. If they want to choose their occupations, let's figure out how to reward them. Let's create, for instance, people study masquerades in terms of tradition. At Ibadan, they were liberated. The annual festival at Ibadan, the Ibadan Festival, was liberated. It accepted elements of the modernity of sexuality in
So
its songs.
did you say that the British even took Ibadan backward?
They actually took Africa backward, not just Ibadan. Because in the 19th century, when they conquered us, the modernizing process was underway. When I tell people that in the middle of this century, not that 19th century, the Akana and Ashanti and others met in Ghana and created modern constitutions for Africa. They created Fante constitutions. These were written constitutions.
Written?
Yes, how to govern Africa in the 19th century. Shaka Zulu was the first one in modern history to create a concept of military nationalism. You cannot understand warfare, modern military, without Shaka Zulu. Indeed, part of what the evil Hitler did in terms of modern military nationalism, he owed it to Shaka Zulu. And then in the northern part of the country, 1804, Uthman Dan Fodio used Islam to create the largest state in Africa. The Sokoto Empire by itself was over 20 million people that it governed from one center in Sokoto. And let's get one fact straight. The trend in the 19th century in Africa was moving in the entire project of modernity. North Africa, Muhammad Ali and others. Ethiopia, the predecessors of Emperor Haile Selassie. Currencies, printing press, they were already modernizing. Bear in mind that the movement in the 19th century, by the time the British came, they already translated the Bible into Yoruba. They've created an orthography. Lagos before the British was a modern city.
But I thought they said Africa's history was all about darkness.
No. If you visited the king of Dahomey in the 18th century, he will host you with bread and wine, red wine.
Are you not patronizing your continent here? In the 15th century, the Europeans were in Africa trading. Before you know it, the transatlantic trade came.
Correct.
So where was Africa?
Correct. And that which you just mentioned marked the beginning of our downfall. Our downfall has been a combination of two things. That slave trade you mentioned and that colonization. We do not have a history of any continent in the world with that double jeopardy who has not suffered tremendously. We've been a traumatized continent. We've been raped, abused, exploited, dominated. The tragedy of it all is that our own people are now repeating that very process. So you now get people like Abacha, people like Mobutu, people like Idi Amin, repeating that very process that put us in these conditions. But we are going to overcome all of them.
How?
Because we have to be optimistic, and we are not going to suffer forever. Forces of transformation will come. Progressives will combine. You may say a country is corrupt, correct, but it's not going to be corrupt forever. People are going to rise up. When the changes come, you and I may be dead, but societies will not just go and fall asleep and say they want to continue to be exploited and abused. People will rise up.
The program is Bull's Eye on Splash 105.5 FM, the Integrity Station. Professor Toyin Falola is my guest. We'll be back after this break, so don't go away. Bull's Eye on Splash 105.5 FM, the Integrity Station. I am discussing with the world-renowned Professor of History, Toyin Falola. Professor Falola, you said no one can understand modern Nigerian politics without understanding Ibadan.
Yes.
How truthful is that?
Part of the conversation that led to the fall of the First Republic and the coup and the Civil War held at Ibadan, bear in mind. And we could date them. In fact, we could know the houses where these conversations were done. The trends that led to the fall of the First Republic were tied to the very political processes in the city of Ibadan. The split of the AG and the crisis between Awolowo and Akintola. This was an Ibadan affair. The formation of major political parties. So you find the city for many years, I do not know what is going on now, became the center of tremendous political discussions. Some of them very nasty, some of them very positive. But you cannot remove the struggles in this city. You cannot remove the conversation in this city and you cannot remove the intrigues in this city from the complexity of modern Nigerian politics.
But you would agree that Ibadan is no longer the center of politics, even in Yoruba land.
And in recent time, you can say that, but in the period in which we're talking about, yes. But as intellectual capital of the country, which it still is, in which, like in this conversation we are doing in the city of Ibadan, and multiple other conversations, and the concentration of intellectual power in the city, shaping discussion in the media, The Guardian, your station and others, they are connected to politics. And these shifts occur from time to time, and sometimes it's after the process has been concluded that we actually know how the process unfolded.
From the history of Ibadan that you describe in your book,
Yes.
one should think by now Ibadan will be the beacon of development even in Africa.
Very good.
That warrior city
Yes.
of the 18th, 19th century.
Very good.
Did Ibadan lose touch with its past?
Very good. And I'm at the moment, actually, in addition to giving the Splash FM lecture, I came here with my research assistant and others, and I'm completing a big book on Ibadan in images and photographs. The city does not even have a coffee table book that it can give away, and I'm doing that in the next 12 months. We've been set back for a variety of reasons, and I'm a son of the shy. And I can confess to you that when I pass through Ologweru, Akwete, and others, I feel so pained that we are reproducing slums. And I'm anguished that instead of decorating our streets with trees and flowers, we decorate them with rubbish. I don't cover up, I tell the truth. I'm so anguished. And it's a very dirty city. I have to confess to that. I'm ashamed, but it's the truth. My challenge is not to catalog all these problems. My challenge is to say, let us figure out how to reclaim the aesthetics, the beauty, the dignity. But in these new challenges that I face, I'm not going to do what people do all the time. Government. I'm fed up with that. I don't want to do that. I'm making a door-to-door argument about community empowerment. Let's clean our own frontage. Let's collect our own rubbish or our own garbage. Let's clean our streets ourselves. And in this community empowerment, a movement, if the government helps us, all well and good. But we're not going to say, well, we are waiting for the government to come and clean the front of our house ourselves. We can clean our streets by ourselves. You and I, as neighbors, as friends, we can have a clean environment.
So Ibadan can rise again.
We can do that.
You said something about Adedibu in your book. You said Chief Adedibu, the late politician, an astonishingly astute character, whose political activities and intensity of their execution require a special study to formulate an indigenous theory of political mobility and the use of non-state power.
Yes.
These are intense words.
Very, very intense. And they are intense, but what it tells you is that you need alternative ways of understanding people in terms of what they're trying to do. So, and theoreticians have done this before me. Socrates, Hume, Machiavelli, Max Weber, they've all confronted this situation. And the case of the figure you just cited, if somebody can rise up with the ability to talk to millions of people and they listen to him, the question you pose is, how was he able to do that? Do not make the mistake of confusing the ability to have power with what you do with power. Abacha had the ability to have power. He became the president of the country. Awolowo was 1 million times smarter than him. He did not have the ability and the know-how to become the president of the country. He struggled and struggled, but he did not. Do not confuse the ability that Abacha had with the ability to know what to do with power. Awolowo knew what to do with power. Abacha did not know what to do with power. Abacha knew how to get that power. Awolowo was not successful in getting that power. Abacha got power, did not know what to do with power. Awolowo, who knew what to do with power, did not get power. So we have to make that distinction. Adedubu knew how to get power, but he did not know what to do with power. So those distinctions we must always bear in mind. In the process of getting power and dominating the city, you have to give him credit. What did he do with that power? You and I may now say that he did not say power in terms of his modernizing elements. So in that passage that you have read, is a credit for the process of getting power. Someone who controlled the transporters, the market women, pharmacy organization, appointing governors. He was appointing governors. Remember. But they didn't know what to do with the power.
Before we round off this interview, why do you argue with the perception that David Livingstone discovered Victoria Falls? Why do you doubt that Mungo Park discovered the bank of River Niger?
Nobody discovered anything for us. We were living there.
But they wrote this in our history books.
Well, those are stupid history books that we should expunge. People took Livingstone to see the to see the fall. People took Mungo Park to see the river. But they, as stupid as those statements they made are, bear in mind that they visited us with epistemic suicide. We've committed suicide. And they have also visited us with knowledge violence. And it works in the following ways. The most damage anybody can do to you is to define you. The most damage. So, if somebody calls another person a bad person, that's an ultimate damage. So what they do is to define us in terms of evil conception. Black is ugly. White is beautiful. We accepted it. Even in Christianity, the angels are white. The devils are black. Hell is black. I will give you the ultimate damage that has ever been done to anybody in world history. You took over 30 million people as slaves and you relocated them and you say, I don't want to know where you come from. I don't care about your ethnicity. I don't want your old name. I will give you another name. And once you erase that name, you now begin to give them other names. Cassius Clay, stone, wood. And that recovery process is always long. Then you take their documents and records and you say, but they don't have a history. They don't know how to write. They don't have to know how to write to have a history. In Sibidi, among the Igbo and Ibibo, is a form of writing. They've been writing, they've been making insignias, they've been making symbols. Then you say, I will destroy their archives and I will now create another archives for them. I gave a lecture at Ibadan in February on ritual archives. They will create an archive for you, and that archive is the University of Ibadan. That archive only covers 60 years of your history, a history before BC.
Unfortunately, your country don't teach the younger ones history. How do you feel?
We've been fighting that. We led a delegation to Obasanjo when he was president. We led a delegation to Jonathan when he was president. And this current president, we told him about it. His minister said he's bringing history back, and we're waiting for him.
But why will leadership not want history to be taught?
Because they said the Civil War, the history of the Civil War, will create more damage. That the history of ethnicities, the history of Igbo fighting Yoruba, Hausa fighting Kanuri.
Must we run away from our history?
That is the way they think. They think that it will create more problems, but some of us think that talking about it will create more peace.
Professor Toyin Falola, thank you for speaking with Splash FM.
Thank you very much.
I've been discussing with Professor Toyin Falola. He's currently the Jacob and Francis Sanga Mosika Chair in the Humanities at the University of Texas at Austin. You have any comment? The number is 080-999-18449, 080-999-18449. It is also a WhatsApp number. You can also leave your comment on my Twitter page. My Twitter handle is @eobilo. Next Monday is another time on Bull's Eye. Until then, I am Edmund Obilo. Thank you for listening.